But if you notice today, the governor is very silent on anything that's happening in the state. And the governor is truly the voice and face of the people. And their job is really to represent the people. So my governing principles are pretty simple. People over politics, do no harm, and do what works. But I will tell you, Colorado Parks and Wildlife Commission has been ambushed by the governor and his so-called husband. I think that's what they call him, because they're dictating what is happening. Yeah. I've attended those CPW meetings, okay? And I've seen firsthand how incompetent those commission members are.
Hey guys, quick thing before we start. May 6th and 7th, the Colorado Parks and Wildlife Commission meeting in Grand Junction. This is where decisions are actually made. Wildlife policy, hunting, access, all of it. You don't need permission to be there. You just have to show up. That's why we built the gear behind this movement. So when we walk in, it's not random individuals. It's a unified presence. If you're coming, wear the message, like the science-based wildlife management hoodie supporting Dan Gates and CRWM. The link for that gear is in the description of this video. Show up. Let's stand together. All right, let's get into today's episode.
I'm Josiah.
And I'm Adam.
We are Salida Gun Shop. Today we welcome Greg Lopez, running for governor in 2026 of Colorado. Got a little cheat sheet here for you. Former U.S. Congressman, 4th District in Colorado. Also Air Force veteran, thank you. And former mayor of Parker, Colorado at age 27, right. Back when Parker was small. Yeah. And last thing I got on here was the Colorado Director of U.S. Small Business Administration back in 2008, 2014. Yep. We kind of talked a little bit before about your affiliation, now running independent. Mm-hmm. What does that mean for the race for you? Like, what do the voters have to look forward to come, because I think with the Democratic, what is it called? The primary?
Right. Primary.
We got that coming up. What does that mean for your candidacy?
So, running as an independent candidate, I have chosen the hardest path to become the governor because I don't have a party machine behind me, right? Yeah. I don't have the Democrat machine or the Republican machine. So all that infrastructure that's across the state, an independent doesn't have that, right? Mm-hmm. But because of that, I don't have a primary. So to your point, there's a primary election on June 30th where the major parties are going to decide who goes to the Super Bowl, right? Gotcha. I tell people the election in November is like going to the Super Bowl. Yeah. So right now, everybody's kind of in the playoffs. They're trying to figure out who's going to go to the Super Bowl. As an independent candidate, I don't have playoffs. I'm going to go directly to the general election in November. Mm-hmm. And so you will see my name alongside whoever wins the Democrat nomination or whoever wins the Republican nomination. Mm-hmm. So there will be 3 truly experienced, viable candidates on the ballot for people to choose from.
Do you feel like that was a hurdle in your previous 2 running as a Republican to get past that primary and have the machine back you as far as like what your candidacy could have been?
Not really, to be honest with you, because, the first time I ran in 2018, I wasn't supposed to be on the ballot because no one knew me. I was the new kid on the block, right? Mm-hmm. But I was fortunate enough to get onto the primary ballot. And so there was 4 of us. I ran against Walker Stapleton, which is related to the Bush family. Mm-hmm. I ran against Victor Mitchell, a self-made millionaire. And then I ran against Doug Robinson, related to the Romney family. Oh, wow. So I was running against some major thoroughbreds, right? Yeah. And so the good thing is I didn't come in last, right? I came in 3rd.
There you
go. But then I went again because I'm committed to saving Colorado. It's not about whether you win an election or you don't win an election. It's about what are you trying to make a difference on. And so I tried again in 2022. I made it to the primary ballot as a Republican. I got top line out of the assembly, which meant I got most of the delegate vote. And then right before the primary election, the Democrat Party spent $2 million against me to make sure that I didn't make it to the general. So they made commercials, they sent out mailers saying that I was too conservative for Colorado. And in the mailers, it was my picture next to Jared Polis's picture. And I wasn't running against him.
No.
You know?
Yeah.
And so they were successful in keeping me away from going to the general. And there's a book, you guys, if you haven't heard of it, it's called the Colorado Blueprint. Okay. This is a book that talks about how the Democrats took control of Colorado. But if you go to page 227, it will tell you that they go after the strongest candidates in the primary so that they don't have to face them in the general. Right. So I lost going to the general election by 49,000 votes. And the Republican candidate that did make it to the general lost by 485,000 votes in the general. So I decided, you know what? I'm not going to let the Democrats do the same, play the same card against me.
Yeah.
So now they got to deal with me at the general election.
Okay.
Right? They cannot take me out early.
Yeah.
And the other thing too, if you look at it, for a lot of people that don't understand, the Republican Party here in Colorado, in the last 45 years, only one Republican has been elected to governor in the last 45 years. So really, when you look at the numbers and you look at the odds, if a conservative candidate, and I consider myself a compassionate conservative, the best way for a conservative to get into the governor's office is to look at the numbers, look at the trends of the voters, and go by the path that you can get there. And when 50% of the voters in Colorado are registered independents, 50%, 25% are registered Democrats, and 23% are registered Republicans, numbers don't lie.
Right.
Right. But I did pick the hardest path to get there.
I think that aligns with kind of what my next question was, the political aligning and really putting yourself up for, reading, what's on the wall, like understanding like how people have been voting and how we've seen, last elections kind of going through and us coming up on this election this year.
Right.
The biggest thing that we saw just recently, and I'm kind of jumping ahead here, is, CPW has been put in charge of a few things. In the last meeting that they had, was pretty obvious of how it was going to go before it even started. And seeing that we talked about it, the NGO money that's coming in out of the state. How do you see that affecting the state going forward if you get elected?
Well, I can tell you this. As your next governor, I will make sure that these NGOs, that are bringing in money from other parts of the country, trying to dictate to Coloradans how we're going to live our lifestyle, our quality of life, publicly, I will always challenge them, If there's means by which I can prevent them from coming in and actively participating, then I will definitely do that. But if you notice today, the governor is very silent on anything that's happening in the state, right? And the governor is truly the voice and face of the people, right? And their job is really to represent the people. So my governing principles are pretty simple. People over politics, do no harm, and do what works. But I will tell you, Colorado Parks and Wildlife Commission has been ambushed by the governor and his so-called husband. I think that's what they call him. Because they're dictating what is happening. Yeah. I've attended those CPW meetings, okay? And I've seen firsthand how incompetent those commission members are, okay? They shouldn't even be on that commission. Those are political favors that the governor has given them. Yeah. And he's telling them how to vote, and it's when evident. They go against their own professionals, you saw it, right? When they go against their own experts that truly understand wildlife, right? And they could care less about the public. They could care less about those that are on the front lines. That is a clear indication that they no longer care about the voice of the people. They got an agenda. They're focused on that agenda, and they're going to do whatever they can to achieve that agenda.
I mean, there's someone who has an obvious conflict of interest that's on that commission, who was on citizen petitions. Whose significant other is very anti-hunting. And I just saw that and I said, oh my gosh, it's bought and paid for.
It is.
Like 100. I guess, is the end goal to do you see it as them ending all hunting, or where do you see them going with that direction that they're going?
So I will tell you this. I've labeled this whole wolf CPW issue Wolfgate. Okay?
Yeah.
It's corrupt,
Yep.
right? People are getting paid off, right? There is an agenda,
Yep.
and the agenda is not for the betterment of the people of this state.
Right.
I truly believe that the governor has this positive illusion that he can make Colorado the playground for the rich and famous. He could care less about the lifestyles of rural Colorado, the Western Slope.
Right.
He's just interested in trying to commit or pretend that, you know what, we got the best vistas, we got the best environment.
Right.
And what I'm hearing and seeing from people is that there are people from California and other major communities coming and buying big ranches, but they're not doing it for ag.
Yeah.
They're
Right.
just doing it because they want the open space. So I'm not sure why the governor has such a strong dislike for rural Colorado. I can't figure that one out. But when you look and you go back, and he did the meet out, right?
Yep.
You start about the very beginning. Something is just not right in the mind of the governor
Yep.
when he's trying to undermine the lives of people and the history of this state.
Yeah.
Colorado wouldn't be here
No.
was it for hunting and farming and ranching.
Yeah.
So I think there is an agenda, and what I truly believe is he's weaponized all the commissions.
Yeah.
He's got 3,000 appointees, right?
Yes.
In the Ag Commission, Parks and Rec, right? All those commissions. And so the only way to fix it is to have a governor that truly understands how the bureaucracy works,
Right.
and starts removing all of those people without any hesitation. And that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Look, I was the head of the United States Small Business Administration here in Colorado. Okay. For 6 years, I was the voice and face of over 875,000 small businesses in this state. Small business is the heart and soul of Colorado,
Yeah.
not the big corporations, right? You go up and down Main Street and you see empty storefronts, that means that community is struggling, right? You see small business thriving, you see small business being able to hear that cash register ring. I'm a small business owner.
Yeah.
I used to have a little bar restaurant. I know how important it is, right? To have that customer base come in.
Yep.
And so this is what the governor doesn't understand small business. He could care less about small business. So you need to have someone that truly understands the totality of what does it mean to be the governor, right? And I tell people, look, there's two powers that the governor has. The first is the executive power that's given to him by the Constitution, right? He oversees 16 different departments, and over 5,000 employees are in the executive branch here in the state of Colorado. And then he's got the power of influence. He can go into the communities and talk about what the legislature is doing at the Capitol, whether it's trying to legalize prostitution, whether they're trying to attack the Second Amendment, whether they're trying to take out the parents out of the schools, right? Whether they're trying to do all kinds of harm. That's the role of the governor, right? And the governor, unfortunately for us, for the last 7 years, has believed that his role as the governor is to create a foundation by which he can be the next president of the United States.
I think you hit it on the head.
Oh, yeah.
Read that
Who
book?
would you bet his running mate is?
Excuse me?
Who would you bet his running mate is?
That's a good one. I don't know. I'd have to think about that one.
I got bets on Gavin Newsom.
Well, I can see that.
That's who I would see.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like as someone who is a transplant to Colorado, came here for hunting from California,
Right.
am now part of a small business that's being hammered by the governor,
Oh, yeah.
is he follows everything that California does.
Oh, yeah. You're absolutely correct. Look, you look at the record. You can see that whatever happened in California within 6 to 8 months, it's going to happen here.
Yeah.
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 And which tells me our governor doesn't have a vision.
No.
He doesn't have a policy on how to make Colorado better. He wants to make it California.
Yeah.
Right. And I would tell the governor, you know what? You should have moved to California 7 years ago. Don't make Colorado California.
No, it's not. And I don't think anything about this place translates to anything going on in California, honestly. And I look at it as, what direction are we going? What is the goal?
Yep.
What's the end goal? Because right now, 25 miles west of I-25, there's zero representation. There's zero representation going on. Nobody matters. We were just in Silt, Colorado.
Yep.
Great town. Very nice people. For a rifle shoot competition. First thing I said when we pulled into that town, nobody's represented over here. I mean, there's somebody who represents that,
right? I get it.
But when it comes to how Colorado is currently running, that is not the case.
No.
The Western Slope is completely forgotten.
Yep.
It's really crazy to think about it, honestly.
It is, because look, you know what? I recognize Colorado is 64 counties.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And everybody has their own quality of life, their own way of life. We need to respect that.
Yeah.
Right? And we need to treat each other with respect.
Absolutely.
And acknowledge that their lifestyle is just a little different than ours. But you know what? They have families. They have kids. They need to eat. They got dreams. You know, they want to live the American dream. Yeah. And I will tell you that if you look at what the governor has done, which I don't know he's done anything positive for our state, right? We're in a crisis everywhere you look. Right? We're in a crisis with energy. We're in a crisis with our roads. We're in a crisis with our budget. We're in a crisis with crime. We're in a crisis with water. There's nothing that he has done that I would say has helped the state of Colorado in any way, shape, or form. Right? Even the cost of living has gone through the ceiling. Right? Housing, affordability. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I was talking to somebody earlier because we had dinner, and I asked them, I said, what would you tell me about if I was the governor today? What would you tell me? They said, fix our damn roads, man. Our roads suck, right? And they do.
Yeah.
There's no way about it.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, one of the greatest examples of that is that when you come out of Wyoming, coming into Walden, and it's like smooth road, and then all of a sudden it's just boom, and you're just...
You could be driving at night and know you came into Colorado.
Yes.
Yeah, you don't even have to see the sun.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you brought up like the economy, you know, the access that rural Colorado has, and I feel like looking at like every day I'm listening to something in the Senate, something in the House, and the bills that are being introduced,
Right.
the amazing amount of bills that are introduced and or passed. It just seems like none of them are really driving towards making anything better. It's always adding administrative, it's adding cost, it's not adding value to like everyday
It's
people.
not. You're absolutely correct.
And you know, being in Silt and seeing an industry that could thrive and really grow, like what would you say that was the largest shale deposit?
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, right there in oh gosh, Palisade right there, Palisade, Parachute,
Right.
right? You have the huge oil, like, so how I would say it is, you go back to pre-2008, right? You have Parachute, Palisade, Rifle, booming,
Right.
going gangbusters, right? They're
Right.
building roads, they're building stoplights. Every single hotel's full.
Yep.
Every single supermarket is full, empty.
Mm-hmm.
But we are going the opposite direction of actually taking advantage of what.
Mm-hmm.
And I just look at that and I go, what are we doing?
Well, you know what? To your point, look, most people don't even know that the legislature here in Colorado meets for 5 months. Okay?
Yep.
They usually start like January 10th, right?
Mm-hmm.
They go to May 14th.
Yep.
Within that time frame, they will pass over 600 new laws every year. Think about that. Over 600. And all these laws that they want to pass, right? They're the warm and fuzzy.
Mm-hmm.
It costs more in administration, right? More costs to even implement the program. I am going to start encouraging openly that as governor, I want to see the legislature limit itself, because there is no law that says how many bills they can introduce, right? They should only limit themselves to 2 bills per person, which is 200 bills that they can debate, read, because they're not reading 600 bills, right? Read the bill, understand what you're voting on. Don't just vote because the leadership told you had to, right? And listen to the community. You guys, if you think have you gone to the legislature to testify?
Remotely.
Okay. Yeah. So if you go in person, it's even worse at CPW because those legislators will get up, they'll leave the room, they're eating, they're watching their phone. They are not listening to anybody that's in front of them because they already know how they're going to vote. They only do it because they have to. If they could get away with not having public testimony, they would do it.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. They would actually do it.
It's evident in some of the amendments that are brought forward either in committee or even on the floor.
Right.
Like it's a party line vote. They're not even listening to the proposal. Like a lot of some of the amendments that are being brought up and bills that would affect our business specifically are really trying to negate any type of legal issue that might occur when they pass the bill.
I know.
They know it's going to be passed, but let's remove some of the legal ramifications because this bill is going to be taken to court. This process is going to be taken to court. But you know what?
So they know that.
Yeah.
And they don't care. They have passed bills that are unconstitutional. They know they're not constitutional, but they're going to wait for someone to take them to court.
Yeah.
Right? It'll take 3 to 5 years for the court to make a decision. But in the meantime, those 3 to 5 years, that law is on the books and people have to honor it.
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, until the people elect a governor that truly understands how government works and is willing to get a busted lip, a bloody nose, a black eye for the right reason, deal with the media, deal with the naysayers, and challenge them for a logical explanation as to why are you doing what you're doing, and are you doing this to get reelected, or have you thought about the damage this is going to do in the next 5, 10, 15 years into the future?
Right.
And that's what you're saying, right? It's like, look, in 2008, things were booming in Colorado, right? Things were good, right? People were coming to Colorado because they believed in the American dream and they could see that they could prosper and achieve everything that they were looking for. Today, people are leaving Colorado, right? You talk to people across the country, you mention Colorado and they're like, oh my God, I feel sorry for you.
There was a number that somebody put out there that it was actually kind of interesting, and I didn't know this is how it was referenced, but they called it domestic migration or domestic immigration.
Right.
And Colorado has the highest of people from Colorado leaving Colorado.
Yeah.
But it doesn't show because like there's like a little bit of influx and something going on. I'm not going to say that I know. I was something I read and I thought that was kind of interesting.
Look, I could tell you this. If you really want to know, and this is how I find out how people are moving, just call the U-Haul guys.
Yeah.
Ask them how many U-Hauls are going one direction, right? And not coming back, right? And you'll see households leaving. It's happening. I can tell you I've probably had in the last 2 years, 8 friends leave Colorado.
Oh, yeah.
I'm done. I'm done with this state, right? They're attacking our kids. They're telling our kids that it's okay to believe they're a girl when they're a boy. They're not telling the parents of what's happening in the schools, right? A 12-year-old can now decide whether they want to go to therapy or not go to therapy and not have to tell the parents. Abortions are happening that parents are not aware of. I mean, the moral fabric of Colorado has been ripping apart, right? We just need to talk about that and let everybody know this is what's actually happening. If you want to change it, the people need to rise up and change it. Yeah. Right? But nobody knows what's going on under the Capitol.
I think that's been like one of the most enlightening things, honestly, is how many people don't vote.
Right.
It's almost appalling, especially because of the industry that we're in and that we're involved in. It's a lot of our folks that are not voting.
But here's why. Let me tell you why that's happening, Adam. Look, I keep my hand on the pulse of the state. And so your neighbors and your community say, well, you know what? There's only 10,000 of us. You go to Denver, that's one neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like I'm being outvoted by Denver. And it doesn't matter how I vote. It's the urban corridor that is dictating how I'm going to live. And so they lose hope because they are not hearing a candidate that's saying that is wrong. That's not the way it's going to work. I introduced a couple of years ago a concept, right? That we should bring into Colorado an electoral college system for statewide elected positions, right? The 2 United States senators, the governor, the treasurer, the secretary, and the attorney general. Okay.
Yep.
And I put the system together. Okay. Up and down the urban corridor like Denver. You can win Denver, but you only get 9 electoral college votes. Okay. You could win the entire urban corridor and still not get elected because you needed over 270 some odd electoral college votes because it wasn't based on voter turnout. I'm sorry, it wasn't based on voter population. It was based on voter turnout. Okay. So it was either 9, 7, 5, and 3. It forces the candidates running for statewide to come out into rural Colorado
Yes.
and make the argument as to why they should be the governor or why they should be elected statewide.
Yeah.
The Democrat Party, I will tell you right now, focuses out of the 64 counties, they only focus on 23. The other 42, they throw away because there's not enough votes there.
Less than 50,000 in each of those.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so if they win Boulder, Denver, Adams, Arapahoe, Jefferson, Colorado Springs, they are elected statewide. And a lot of people don't know that, right? And the good thing about me running as an independent, I can call both sides out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because both sides have done some stuff that they shouldn't be doing. I mean, I remind people, when Colorado was a Republican state, a red state, there were some things that they did that they probably shouldn't have done, right? Because why? It made the other side angry, right? And so the same thing with the Democrats today. They're doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing. It's making the Republicans angry. And now you have 50% of the voters are saying, I don't like either party.
Yeah.
And so I got to vote right now. I got to vote for the least of the two evils. But this election cycle, they do have an independent candidate that is electable, that understands how to run government, that has been elected, and can actually talk about the issues in depth so people can feel like this guy knows us.
Yeah.
He cares about us. I'm going to tell you, I'm the only candidate that will take votes from both sides. Okay.
Yeah.
I used to be the president of the Denver Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I used to sit on the board of the Martin Luther King Awards Committee. Remember, small business.
Yeah.
So the urban corridor is saying, you know what? We can't wait to vote for you in November because we've seen both sides.
What do you, I guess, it's interesting. What are you seeing in the urban corridor right now from voters mostly? Like, what are they displeased with? I know what we're displeased with, right? But what do you see down there?
Crime
Crime.
and homelessness. You go downtown Denver and you see people tweaking.
Oh, you don't have to tell me. We went to Denver, lights at the zoo.
Yeah.
I hadn't been to Denver in a while.
Mhm.
We were going down there with some family, and I thought it was very interesting to pull into the parking lot at the Denver Zoo, and they have huge white signs that say, "Don't leave anything valuable in your vehicle." I thought, man, seems like a pretty easy policing problem, but okay, they probably got other big things to deal with. No big deal. We ended up at a Dairy Queen. Holy cow. You got prostitution, you got drug deals, you got homelessness, all happening in one area. And it was like, what happened to this place? And this is like 5-6 blocks down from my wife's in-law or wife's grandparents' house. It's like, this used to be a really nice area.
Yeah, look, it's shifted dramatically, not for the betterment of the communities, right? Parents can't really take their kids on walks or to the park. They don't feel safe, right? And again, you will see people actually defecating on the sidewalks because it's not against the law. in Denver. Okay. And so it really has created what we used to be the jewel, right? 16th Street Mall, right?
Yeah.
We would tell everybody, come to Denver. I don't go to downtown Denver at all unless I have to, right? They've done a little good things. It used to have a real odor about it, right? To be honest with you, it smelled like urine all the time, right? But they fixed that.
Yeah.
But you still see it, right? And at night, people are telling you, don't go down there at night, man.
Really?
Yeah. Do not go down there. The ridership of RTD is down. Why? Because people do not trust the people that are getting on the bus or the light rail.
Oh, man.
So it is a very different neighborhood or corridor than what people remember it to be. People aren't friendly anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
I'd be curious of their lives.
I'd be curious what you would hear from the first responders down there.
Yeah.
The police, fire, and EMS down there, and what their experience has been over the last 10 years.
I will tell you their frustration, because I talked to chief of police, I talked to sheriffs, I talked to first responders. Law enforcement is so frustrated because they catch these people committing crimes,
right?
And before they finish the paperwork in their department, they're walking out the door, right? They self-bond themselves on their own reconnaissance, right?
Yeah.
And you steal a car in Denver or here in Colorado, it's no longer a real felony. It's a misdemeanor. They'll give you like a speeding ticket and say, hey, Adam, you know what? You're driving a stolen vehicle. I know it doesn't belong to you. Here's your ticket. Show up to court.
Turns out I'm getting a new Porsche.
But that's how bad it's gotten.
Yeah.
But nobody wants to talk about it.
It's actually really an interesting thing. It's actually one of the reasons like I 100% avoid the Denver airport is I want to come back to my vehicle when the plane flights, when my return trip. Yeah. Unfortunately, I know more than one person that's had a vehicle stolen from there.
Exactly.
and then they're 3 hours away from home or 3 hours away from help.
And it used to not be that way.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the police officers, the other reason that it's happening is because the legislature took qualified immunity away from the police officers.
Right.
See, a lot of people did not know that if a police officer was accused of doing something that they shouldn't have done, right, that they were being protected by the agency, right, by the police department. That's no longer the case. Ever since George Floyd, if you're a police officer, you get accused of doing unnecessary force, right, and you get accused that you probably shouldn't have done that. You didn't really create a lot of harm, but the first $25,000 comes out of your pocket.
And these are guys not making.
No,
they're just going to completely disengage.
Yeah,
not
they're not.
Involved.
They're very careful about when they respond to a call.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And what do they do when they get to the call?
Right.
And I've been told by law officers, Greg, I hate to tell you, but man, I am not patrolling the way I used to.
Yeah.
I can afford to lose $25,000 just because some Yahoo says I did something.
Right.
Yeah.
The other thing I'd be interested to know is, I know there's crime stats and stuff, but how much the officer-involved shootings have increased down there?
Well, I would tell you this. It's starting to increase a little bit, right, because of the violent types of crimes that are happening.
Yeah.
Right? And so now, instead of just telling people to stop and quit running, they run. They're not interested in law enforcement.
Right.
And so they're having to do a little bit more about cops involved in shootings, but it's all because of the leadership, right? We're a sanctuary state. We're a sanctuary city in Denver.
What does that technically mean?
It means that as a sanctuary state, if you are here illegally or you're not an American citizen and someone, the FBI or federal agencies are looking for you, you as a state do not share any information at all. You can look up at the system and say, this guy's wanted in a certain state or this guy's wanted by the federal government. You're not to call the FBI or ICE to say, we got the guy, come get him. You're not allowed to do that. You can't even ask people anymore if they're citizens of the United States or not. So a lot of the benefits, a lot of the services that we offer to Americans are being offered to everybody.
Wow.
So we're in a crisis.
Yeah.
And the good thing is, I've been fortunate enough that I've learned a lot about different things, right? And so when I first heard about the wolf, a good friend of mine, Dan Gates. I don't know if you guys know Dan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Dan calls me and goes, Greg, you got to go to this meeting, man. You got to go to CPW. He's like, why? What's the big deal? He goes, you got to see it. I can't explain it. You got to watch them, right?
Yeah.
And then you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So it was in Glenwood Springs last June. I just happened to be traveling in this area. I said, I'll stop by and see what's going on. I was shocked at what I saw. The incompetence, the rudeness, right? The inability to actually understand what it is that you're voting on, right?
Yeah.
And trying to make motions, and these guys don't really know what they're voting on.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, you guys don't even know parliamentary procedure. You don't know when to make a motion, how to second it, how to amend it. And people are like, what are we voting on? And it's like, well, I think we're voting on this. It's like, timeout. And you got attorneys and you got staff and no one's correcting them.
Yeah.
Right?
No.
So I talked to a couple of producers and they're like, hey, we heard you're running for governor. Can you help us? It's like, well, let me see what I can do. Let me look into it.
Yeah.
Right? I'm a reader.
Yeah.
So I read the 10J rule.
Yeah.
I read the Wolf Management Plan.
Yeah.
I read the letter of agreement, right? I just came from Congress, right? So I told the guys that were working on this, I said, guys, you're fighting in the wrong sandbox. They're like, what do you mean? I said, the Endangered Species Act is not controlled by the state of Colorado. It's controlled by the federal government. So right now, Colorado is the designated agent for the federal government, but they work on behalf of the federal government. So you want to put an end to this, you got to deal with the Department of Interior, United States Fish and Wildlife Service.
Right.
And I was told, well, we're going to stay in our sandbox, Greg. I said, well, okay, well, I'm going to go play in the real sandbox.
Yeah.
Right. I got involved. I sent a letter in September of last year to Brian Nesvik, the director. And I know how the protocol is. So, because I used to be there, right? I used to be in the executive branch of the federal government. I send a letter to the regional director, Matt Hogan, right? I CC all the congressmen. I CC the media, right? And I give them 30 days to issue a cease and desist order because they're bringing in wolves from Canada and they're violating the Endangered Species Act and they're not following their own rules. Okay, that was September 9th. The government shut down on September 30th because they didn't pass a budget. But on October 10th, Brian Nesvik sends a letter to Colorado Parks and Wildlife and the governor saying, you are not bringing in wolves from Canada or Alaska.
Do you think that was an obvious disregard for what the 10J was actually set up for? Do you think
Yes.
that purposely?
I'm going to tell you this. In the federal government and in the state government, there are employees that people say they've bored in, right? They're bureaucrats.
Yeah.
And their job is not really to do their job. Their job is to outlive the person that just got elected for 4 years. So like, I'll put up with this guy for 4 years and they'll leave and I'm still here, right? But the people that are coming in don't know the rules, don't know the protocol, right? And most people do not read. Reading is something that people don't do anymore. Right?
Yeah.
And so, I think they purposely chose not to read, right? Because they say, well, we've always done it this way. And I will tell you this, the only reason Colorado was able to get wolves in, yes, it was voted in by the people, right? But less than 1% approved it.
Right.
And if it wasn't for Boulder and Denver, it never would have got approved. But when Governor Polis reached out to the president at that time and said, I want to bring in wolves, I need you to help me, the 10J rule came into play. Because nowhere in the Department of Interior's plan will you see that they wanted to bring wolves into Colorado.
Right.
The science just doesn't uphold it.
Right.
So the Department of Interior, I believe, was turning a blind eye to what the governor was doing. Until a congressman like me says, you're violating the Endangered Species Act. I know how this plays. And all of a sudden they're like, okay, right, we got to stop it because he's right.
Yeah.
I am still convinced that someone needs to go to jail, and I'm still going to pursue it because I am not going to tolerate someone breaking the Endangered Species Act and creating the harm that they've done
Right.
to the Western Slope.
End of the wolves.
Yeah. Look, we have 15 illegal wolves in the state.
Mm-hmm.
I think they should be deported.
It's a good way to look at it.
Just send them back home.
Yeah. The sad thing is, if the federal government ends up being involved, what's going to happen to those wolves? Are they going to be relocated? Are they going to go to sanctuaries? Or are they going to have to be culled?
Here's what I think. Okay. I was in DC for a week. Okay. Last week. I had a couple of conversations. I am hopeful that the Department of Interior, United States Fish and Wildlife, sends a letter to CPW and says, you are no longer involved or responsible for the wolf in Colorado. And they have the authority to do that because of the letter of agreement.
Right.
Okay. And in the 10J rule, it says they can remove them as well as the letter of agreement. Okay. Once they remove Colorado Parks and Wildlife out of there, I believe what the federal government is going to say is, look, guys, all you producers, all you cattlemen, we're going to give you all a take permit for a year. If you see something that gives you pause for concern, take the wolf. Just let us know that you took it.
Yeah.
Because they don't have the time, the energy, or the appetite to bring in wolves into a state that was mandated by the vote of the people, not by science, not by the environment. Okay. And what a lot of people in Colorado don't understand, the entire state has been declared the environment of the wolf. And you should see people in Boulder now and in Denver. They're getting really nervous that the wolf is actually going into Boulder County, actually going into Denver County.
Yeah.
They're like, well, I thought the wolves were going to be in the mountains. These guys could care less.
Yeah.
Those wolves are traveling pretty far.
They travel 60 to 70 miles a day.
Yeah. They travel pretty far.
Amazing predators.
Yeah.
And that's what people don't understand. These are apex predators. They hunt in a pack.
Yeah.
It's not just one.
No.
Right? And sometimes they hunt for fun, not to eat.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm here to tell you that as governor, I'm going to put a stop to the introduction of the wolf because it is a failed experiment.
Yeah.
If you look at the 10J, right? What's it called? A non-essential experimental population.
Right.
When 40% of the wolves are dying.
Yeah.
It's not working.
No. Really unfortunate, honestly.
It is.
At the end of the day.
But to your point, right? All these environmentalists, all these wolf advocates, when I tell them, say, let me get this straight. You want to protect the wolf, but you're okay going to Oregon, going to Washington, going to Canada, and finding a family of wolves, throwing a net over them, or shooting them with a dart, right? Taking them away from their family, taking them away from their environment, and then within 24 hours releasing them into a place that they don't understand the noise, the smells, the sounds, where the water is, and they just run.
Yeah.
Right?
They literally run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you think that's good for the wolf? How would you feel? I tell them, how would you feel if someone captured you in the middle of the night, dropped you off in China, and said, best of luck?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
I'd be lost.
Very. Yeah. It'd be easy to spot.
Yeah. Not hard. I'm curious with the touch on that. What are your thoughts on the ballot box biology then? I think it's pretty obvious, but
Look, for me, has there always been fraud in the elections? Yes, but not to the level that we're seeing, right? And I always ask people, it's interesting to me that everybody wants the mail ballot, right?
Yeah.
And the argument for the mail ballot was, well, more people are going to vote, right? The voter turnout will be better. Well, the voter turnout was up the first two cycles, but it's back down to its normal area. To your point, why is it only that 27% of the voting population actually votes?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I can tell you in the midterms, only because it's the midterms, right? And the argument is going to win, who's going to win the House, right? Who's going to win the Senate?
Right.
I predict that the voter turnout is going to be around 62%.
Really?
Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
62%. still 40% of the voters are not coming out to vote.
Yeah.
Okay. And it comes to their house, right?
Yeah.
It's not like you have to go and stand in line somewhere,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So it's not working.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I tell people is, look, we had women and others that fought hard for the right to stand in line to vote.
Yeah.
And we stand in line for hours to go to a concert. We stand in line for hours to go to a football game.
Right.
And we only ask you to vote once every 2 years.
Right.
You can afford to stand in line.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? And I've been an election judge. It doesn't take forever to count the ballots, right? And I'm going to tell you, as a candidate, doesn't matter to me whether we know at 7:01 who won or not, right?
Right.
I can wait till the next day,
Yeah.
because all the work and everything you've done, it would be great to know that you at least have a couple hours to relax, right? But you're waiting for the results at 7:02. You won or you lost, and guess what? Now all the media's on top of you. Now all your supporters are on top of you, and there really is no time to come down from the 8 months of campaigning that you've been at.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would rather see us go back the SMART Act. When I was in Congress, I voted for the SMART Act. Okay, it was attached to the continued resolution. I struggled with it because I knew we were $38 trillion in debt. Okay. But when it's all said and done, I want American citizens to select our leaders, and they should show ID, and there should be nothing wrong in proving that you're an American citizen. Yeah. That's what sets us apart from a third world nation.
Should be proud of it.
Yeah, exactly.
I have accomplished it. Even those that have gone through the process to become a U.S. citizen, super proud.
Oh, yeah. I had a privilege to go to a nationalization ceremony as a congressman. Guys, the oath that these people take is just unbelievable. You'd think our Pledge of Allegiance is special. You should listen to the oath that these people are taking to become American citizens. And they are crying. Their eyes are watering because they know once they say that oath, they are now American citizens. It is an experience that I will never forget.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Man. I mean, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Honestly, just
the pride.
Yeah.
From our recent trip to Mexico and come back here, we're very privileged.
Yes, we are.
Very privileged.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't imagine coming from a place like that. We saw pretty, I would say, just poverty.
Yeah.
And
Look, Americans, for the most part, right? We truly don't understand poverty.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you see people that are on SNAP and this, and it's like, I don't know, that guy's pretty healthy. Looks like he's eating a lot better than I am. Right?
Yeah.
I'm not seeing any stress in his face.
Right.
Right? They all have phones.
Yeah.
They all have cars.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
and it's like, wait a minute. But then you go to a third world country, right? Yeah. And you actually see real poverty.
I mean, the struggle is real.
Yeah,
like,
it is.
Real.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how to describe it. We saw a younger few guys that were making mesquite.
Yep.
Covered head to toe in just soot.
Yep.
And they were working hard to get this mesquite charcoal ready to put in bags. And you see the bags and you're like, man, that bag's like maybe $20,
right?
Something like that up here. And in talking to some of the guys, they were like, oh, those guys might make $10, maybe less than that. A month.
Yeah.
It was surprising.
Yeah.
And like the amount of work that they were doing and their living conditions. Yeah.
It's a whole other level.
Yeah. There's people living in.
And to your point, right? I always ask myself, why is Mexico allowing that to happen?
I don't know.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, but we do know, right? It's the cartel.
Right.
Yeah.
The cartel controls the government.
Right.
For those that believe, oh no, those are fair elections. You know what? You go just a couple of levels deep into the government, and it's all the cartel.
Yeah.
Right. And over there, guys, if you watch the newspapers, if you pick up a newspaper, they don't sugarcoat anything.
Mm-hmm.
They will
Really?
show, they will show the bodies with the gunshots. They're not about censoring the media.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Why? Because they want people to live in fear.
Yeah. That was the interesting thing too. When we pulled in there, and I think we were only a couple miles in, and there's, a Hilux truck with 6 up armored guys in the back, 249 in the back, and you're just like, well, I guess we're in Mexico.
Yeah.
Yep.
Holy cow.
We made it.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But again, right? So you look at what happens in our neighboring country.
Yep.
You see what's happening because they're trying to come here. But we also see what happens when they are here.
Yeah.
Right? And our quality of life is being diminished, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our voices are being silenced.
Yeah.
We as Americans are being told to stand at the back of the line while non-citizens get to go to the front of the line, right? They're like, that's just wrong.
I read an article recently about Denver Health and their struggle right now with keeping their finances, and UC Health keeping their finances kind of above afloat, I guess is the case, due to a lot of undocumented immigrants. Are you seeing that, or is that something that's on your radar there?
Look, again, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Okay. To what extent, I'm not sure, but I do talk to doctors. I do. I used to have a little company. I was a casualty of COVID, but my wife and I had a company for 20 years. We would place the medical equipment inside new hospitals.
Okay.
Okay. So the operating room, the pharmacy, the laboratories, everything, every piece of medical equipment we would place inside the hospital.
Okay.
Okay. And so when COVID hit, there was a lot of questions within the medical industry. Are we going to do this? Are we going to take a shot? What are we doing? Right. And I will tell you, there was a huge number like, you know what? I'm not doing it, but I'll pretend that I did and no one will question.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to now, I'm hearing from providers is like, we tell someone, right? Remember, a lot of these people cannot speak English.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you would tell them, hey, you need to go to the doctor. Well, all of a sudden it's like, if they don't get the medication they want, they'll go to another clinic, right, to get what they need or want, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now hospitals, we have to remember this, guys. Hospitals are for profit.
Yeah.
They are not nonprofit, right? So they're in a business to make money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And right now, what I'm hearing that the administrators, in order to make money, they're forcing all these additional tests to be done by the doctor, even though the doctor doesn't think that test is needed. But in order to get more cash from the government or Medicaid, run the test so we can prepare for a lawsuit. Not that one's going to happen, but because you ran an additional test, guess what? The insurance company is going to give us more money.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So they're playing the game just like everybody else does, right? But they're playing with people's health.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And again, a lot of people don't know that, you know what? You can go to the pharmacy and buy stuff. You don't have to go to the doctor.
Yeah.
Right? But because they're not accustomed to going to the pharmacy and people are told, just go to the doctor. You're covered under Medicaid. You don't have to pay for it. They're like, what do you mean I don't have to pay for it? No, just go. And they don't pay for it. So after a while, it's like, well, I guess I'll go to the doctor for everything and anything.
Wow. I guess the other question, like, is kind of going back to we were talking about roads. This is a conversation that comes up quite often around here. Is like the marijuana tax, and is that money going to the roads? Like, I don't know, right?
I wish I could tell you yes, but I drive the same roads you do.
Yeah,
and I'm like, where's the money going?
Yeah,
because it's not going on the pavement,
right?
It's not going on the asphalt. The striping is not good. You drive down in the corridor and half the highway signs are faded.
Right.
You can't even read the reflection on some of them. Right. And to your point is that is a reflection of poor management. Look, the governor had never run anything before. Right. And he appointed people to make decisions that didn't have the background. The director of CDOT.
Yeah.
She has no knowledge on road construction. That was a political favor that Polis did for President Obama because her dad was a major contributor to Obama. Look it up.
Whoa.
She had no understanding of how to do CDOT.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
Good example we saw here locally is we've been on the list for this frontage to get I think it's a water study, and that got done back in 20. We got a notification that in 22, 23, they were going to finish the sidewalk so people could walk from the, downtown all the way out to Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
Never happened. I got another letter this year that it's happening 26, 27.
Right.
So what happened in between with the money that was allocated for that project and the obviously the project management side or in the organization is like it just poof disappeared?
Look, Colorado's in a crisis because of poor leadership.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not because we don't have the money, right? It's how do you prioritize?
Mm-hmm.
Every road now in the corridor has to have a bike lane.
Yeah.
Right? You go to Denver, I don't even know how to park anymore. Because they have these white little sticks sticking up all over the place, right? It's like, wait a minute, am I supposed to go through those to park? How does that work, right? Yeah. And a lot of people are confused.
I was very confused.
Right?
Yeah.
You're not alone. You're not alone.
I was like, man, this road's pretty wide, but there's like a green stripe over here, and there's that looks like a bike lane, so I'll stay out of that.
Yeah. So again, right, they're not focusing on roads, on transportation. They're focusing on what they consider transportation options, bikes that no one is using, right? Fast lanes, right? Toll lanes that you drive in like 5 vehicles on this toll lane while the rest of the traffic is piled up on the lane right next to it. Right. And so one of the things that I'm going to do as governor for the urban corridor, think about it. Anytime you build a road, well, first of all, we haven't built a new road in Colorado for 50 years. A new road. We always widen roads.
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So when we widen the road, we got to narrow the road, right? Because we got to make safety zones for the workers. Mm-hmm. So for 3 years, the road it was 3 lanes. Now it's 2 lanes, right?
Yeah.
It takes 5 years or 7 years to build the road. So when you open the road, guess what happened? The growth caught up. So when you open the road, there's more cars on it. Didn't save you time, didn't save you anything, just accommodates more traffic. Right? I'm looking to buy E470 and take the tolls off. Okay? And let everybody that doesn't want to go to downtown Denver go around Denver. Every major metropolitan city has a loop system.
Yeah.
Houston has a loop system. Yeah. Chicago has a loop system. Denver doesn't. Right? Yeah. Why? Because we're too close to the foothills.
Yeah.
Right? So let's make E470 a free road. And we can do it. A lot of people think it's owned privately. That road is owned by government. 5 cities, 3 counties.
What?
It's owned by Parker, Aurora, Commerce City, Brighton, and Thornton. 5 cities, 3 counties. Douglas, Adams, and Arapahoe. And so I know that because I sat on the board when I was a mayor of Parker.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we just buy that back from those communities and we just get rid of the tolls. And now we don't have to worry about shutting down or narrowing a road. We would be able to take off of I-25 over 60,000 vehicles per day if we open E470 as a non-toll road.
Holy cow.
Wow.
Really?
What would that do for emergency services, though, for those counties that would be involved, though? It would be
as far as
state, right? So,
well, the road state. The road would be, it's going to be like I-25.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know what? Just like what happens when there's an accident on I-25, the city's mobilized, right? Mm-hmm. So whether it's Aurora Fire or Aurora Police So
they're already doing it?
No.
Okay.
Yep.
Good.
Yep.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. So in mentioning like what you would do for that corridor, like we talked about the regulations that are putting the Western Slope in a slump that's been for over 20 years.
Yeah.
What do you see as an option as governor to open that back up so that the regulations aren't there and deregulating, allowing them to frack, allowing them to be producers again?
Yeah, look, when you look at what's happened to Colorado, right, and you look at the mindset of the bureaucrats, I will tell you the most powerful people in government are not the elected officials. It's the bureaucracy, right? They're the ones that are coming out doing the inspections. They're the ones that are coming out and say, oh, you're doing it wrong. We're going to fine you, right? But they don't show you the rules. They just tell you the rules, right? And if you don't know, you say, oh, okay, well, I guess I have to pay it, right? So they make up all the rules. The DORA, which is the division that puts in all the regulations, is out of control. Okay, so I will purposely look at DORA and all the regulations and start pulling them back. Okay, because these are internal policies. These are not laws.
Right.
Okay. These are policies of the agency and how they're going to apply the law. Okay, and so when it comes to oil and gas, right? Think about it. It's all about climate change. When I think about climate change, I think you might be old enough to remember this. You guys remember CY2? Y2K?
Oh, yeah.
Y2K, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's like, oh my God, the sky's falling.
Yeah.
Right? The computers are going to crash. You're not going to be able to get your money because the experts were saying computers don't know how to read more than two numbers. And we're afraid that when it goes to 00, they're going to think it's 1900, not 2000. Right? And everybody panicked. Well, the world didn't end. Right?
Yeah.
I remember staying up to see what would happen at midnight. Same thing's happening with climate change, right? Is the climate getting hotter? Okay, maybe, right? But is it really going to create the devastation that we're talking about? And if it is, what's causing this, right? One of the biggest problems in Colorado that no one wants to talk about as it pertains to CO2 is the forest. Is the fact that we're not managing our forest, okay? The forest is a natural CO2 carbon sink. Those trees take CO2 out of the air and put it back into the ground, which creates photosynthesis, right? We learned that in school, right? But when you have dead timber just sitting there, decaying, what do you think is happening with that CO2? It's going back into the atmosphere, and it's causing wildfires, right? And then we have the silt, and then we got the water quality because of the fires. How about we clean up the forest? How will we plant trees again, right? And counter it from that perspective. Because the cost of living as it comes to energy is because of the regulations on oil and gas, right? I like to kid the ladies. I say, are you ready to get rid of your yoga pants? And they're like, what are you talking about? I said, well, without oil and gas, you wouldn't have yoga pants. They're like, what? I said, yeah. And you wouldn't have the medical equipment. You wouldn't have a lot of things that we take for granted.
Right.
That is all a byproduct of oil and gas.
Right.
But we don't educate the community about it, right? It is a delicate balance, but we can balance this.
Yeah.
And renewable energy is not going to solve the day. Wind and solar will never replace oil and gas. The only thing that may replace oil and gas is nuclear.
Right.
But people are not ready to embrace nuclear openly. And maybe rightfully so.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But our utility bills are going through the ceiling because of the requirements that the governor has put and the legislature has put on the energy companies.
Right.
Did you know that every development or R&D program gets funneled back to the consumer because the Public Utilities Commissions allow all the electric companies to pass along all the cost for all new infrastructure to the consumer.
Really?
So their cost of electricity is not going up for them. It's going up for us because they're building solar fields and they're doing windmills.
Huh.
You know who appoints the PUC?
Yeah.
The governor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's another commission that needs to be.
Aren't there several solar fields that aren't even being utilized for the state consumption?
I'm hearing. You know what? There's. I saw this. I heard about it. It's like, this can't be true, but it is. Right. It's right before Craig, on the left hand side. We drove up the hill and there's a sea of solar panels. I mean, a sea. Right. So I asked, are these guys, are they working? They're like, nope. It's not even connected to the grid. They just built it. Why? Because the federal government was doing subsidies, right? For all these new companies, right, that were doing solar and alternative energy, most of them went bankrupt because they don't make money off of that stuff.
Huh.
And even when you do connect it to the grid, the most that you can get out of it is maybe 8 to 9% electricity out of it.
Somebody was saying, maybe this isn't even a place for this, but that you have to have a solar field close to a power plant because it doesn't produce enough energy to actually go into the system. Have you ever heard that?
No. I can tell you this, that's positive illusions. Because before this whole climate change, we had power.
Yeah.
Right? We didn't need solar panels.
No.
Right? And so I will tell you that the grid itself, which is basically the high power lines, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of power going on to there, right? That is unstable, right? Because circuit breakers are popping, just like in our home, right? And so when there's a lot of demand because it's hot or it's cold and people are using the power, it will break, right? The circuit breakers will pop and there's a blackout. Okay. So our grid right now is not strong enough to be able to carry the growth that is happening.
Really?
Yeah. And that's why you'll hear that a lot of the new developments want little nuclear self-supporting power for their commercial industrial facilities, right? But we got to be careful because not only are we struggling with water, right, on the Colorado River,
right,
but our electric grid, right? And this is what people need to understand. You're either, as a voter, going to elect someone that you think is the most popular, someone who you think is a good speaker, or you're going to elect someone that truly understands the complexity of running a state of 6 million people.
I think that's a lot of times what the advocates or the the people that want to for the good of humanity, let's go to solar, let's go to renewable sources. They don't realize like there are 6 million people here that are going to use that resource, and you don't have the infrastructure for it. You have rolling blackouts.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that there's not a use for that, but it's probably to run the traffic lights. Right?
Very minimal.
Yeah. Because you got to have reliable energy.
Yeah.
Right? And if it's snowing or it's cloudy, those solar panels are not generating electricity. If the wind's not blowing, those windmills aren't doing jack. Okay?
They sure don't look very pretty.
No, they don't.
I'll be honest.
They remind me of the War of the Worlds, right?
Yeah. I was driving through Kansas, and they've got those big wind farms and everything. There were 2 of them that looked like they caught on fire, and it was. Yep. Man, I hope nobody was on it, because you're just trapped up there or whatever. It just looked very dystopian.
Oh yeah,
very tragic.
Yeah, I lived southeast Colorado, and there wasn't any windmills when I first moved out there, and now it's. Yeah.
Well, at night, right? You see this sea of red, like these little red lights. Yeah. Right? It's like, what is that?
Yeah.
That
was actually really interesting.
So, guys, as we look into the future of Colorado, I see a bright future.
Yeah.
But we must change the mindset of the leadership, and it all starts with the governor. Yeah. The governor is the voice and face of the people, and if you don't have a governor that understands the challenges of everyday Americans and Coloradans, then they're going to do whatever they think they can do. Polis doesn't know, what it means to go to the grocery store and price comparison. The guy's worth over $700 million. No, nothing that's happening to us is impacting him.
Right.
And so I would say that it's a good thing that he's termed out, right? Yeah. Because we know what it feels like to live under a 7-year rule of a one-party rule. And the one thing I would tell you, all your listeners and so forth, is vote for Republicans in the Senate. We gotta win the Senate. Because if the Republicans control the Senate and the Democrats control the House, now they gotta really debate to send a bill to my desk.
It's interesting you say that because honestly, one of the biggest things that you could do is just watch one of the debates, or it's not even a debate.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's yep, nope, okay,
yeah,
done. It's like, holy cow, that didn't even go anywhere.
Yep.
But let me tell you why. Okay, so think about this for a minute. In the state legislature here in Colorado, there's 100 members total, 100, right? So 100 people are making all the decisions for all of us. In the House, there are 65 members of the House. And in the Senate, there are 35 members in the Senate.
Yeah.
Okay. The breakdown in the House is 22 Republicans and 43 Democrats. In the Senate, there's 12 Republicans and 23 Democrats.
Yeah.
Every single Republican could sit home, never show up to the Capitol, and they have enough for a quorum, and they have enough to pass every single bill that they want to pass.
Yep. Wow.
And so that's why there's no debate.
There's no discussion
At all.
Nothing.
Because they're like, why do we need to listen to you? Because you don't have the votes to challenge us.
Right.
Yeah.
You're just wasting our time. I need to be home by 9, so we're just going to vote.
And we've witnessed it. I mean,
Yeah.
We've witnessed it. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
We did.
It's sad. That's not the way America's supposed to operate.
Right.
Right? That is not the way it's supposed to work. And so I can tell you that when I was mayor, I had veto power. So I know how to use the veto.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of people have said, well, Greg, how are you going to, if you have a Democrat legislature, how are you going to work with them? Well, first of all, I'm going to build relationships with them. I'm going to let them know that, hey, I think what you're doing is not right. And because I am the voice of the people, guess where I'm going? I'm going to go out to your district and have a conversation with your voters, your constituents.
Yeah.
Right. Let them decide whether you're doing the right thing or not.
Right.
Right. But I will veto stuff.
Yeah.
And there'll be bills that I will never sign. Do you know that a governor doesn't have to sign a bill and it still becomes law?
Yep.
Very aware.
Yeah.
So I will never sign a bill that I don't agree with because I don't want my legacy of my family to say, well, your grandfather supported this. Like, I'm only signing those bills that I believe in.
Yeah.
Those that I don't sign still become law, but you'll never connect me to saying I approve that.
Yeah.
Right.
You mentioned at the very beginning, you wanted to save Colorado. It's not beyond saving, right?
No, it's not.
And I think a lot of times we have those conversations in the store and then out at the range and just in public, and like people that don't understand the process always kind of look towards those that are elected to be accountable and be held accountable, and like somebody should go after them. And I want to draw that back, and you be accountable. Like, be accountable for the person next to you to make sure that they're informed, or at least they understand like the voting process is your way of being accountable to hold those people that are elected accountable.
It even goes further than that.
Yeah.
Okay? Because you're absolutely correct. But here's the thing. People have to remember that every elected official works for the people.
Yeah.
The people don't work for the elected officials. It's the other way around. Right? And so I'm looking to have you be my boss. Right? And think about it. If you're going to hire somebody, this is what I tell people. Imagine you're a small business owner. You're about to retire, but you're not going to sell your company. You're just going to pass it on to someone that can run it for you. Okay? You're going to do interviews, right?
Yep.
Are you going to hire the most popular? Are you going to hire the guy that can speak the best? Or are you going to hire the one that understands how to run your company?
Yeah.
Right? And then when you choose that person, do you tell them, don't bankrupt the company? I'll see you in 4 years, and I'll give you your first evaluation in 4 years.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
No one does that.
No.
But we do it when we elect officials.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, well, I guess we'll have to vote them out 4 years from now. No. Pick up the phone, call them, let them know you're not happy.
Yeah.
Right? Let everybody know what they're doing. Pressure on elected officials is something that the people can still do if they want to.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
And so I would tell you that's the best way to do it. And I'm here, think about it. I'm asking 3.5 million people. That's who I'm interviewing with. Right?
Yeah.
And asking them to please hire me to be your governor at $135,000 a year, overseeing 5,000 employees, 16 divisions, and overseeing 64 counties, their families, their lives, and their quality of life. It's not because of the money.
Yeah.
I was a congressman.
Yeah.
I'm doing it because I'm passionate in helping people and making sure that people can live the best way of life that they want to choose, not government. Government needs to stay out of our lives.
That was the conversation that I had earlier today.
Yeah.
Yep.
You guys do your
government.
thing. I'll do mine. We'll be okay.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Well, you got to make sure that they do their thing
Yeah.
and they stay out of your life.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's why I'm here.
Yeah. Exactly.
What is, when you become governor, what is one law that you would immediately wipe off? Like what?
Well, here's the thing.
Or is there more than one?
Well, here's the thing. The governor does not have the unilateral power to remove laws. Okay. Because that's why you have the legislature. You got three branches of government: the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch. Now, there are a couple of laws that I'm going to start highlighting and say, people, we got to fix this. This is bad legislation. This is bad laws, right? The easy ones are those that go against the Constitution of the United States, right? Those are the founding documents.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. The argument is like, hey, it's in the document. You know what? You're not supposed to infringe on this. Okay. Right. And a lot of people think that those are our rights. But if you actually read the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, this is instructions to government. You will not do this. Right?
Yep.
And so when we correct that meaning, we'll fix that. The other things that we need to fix is what are they doing in their schools with our kids?
Yeah.
Right. The educational system is failing our children. Right. So all this stuff about transgender in the schools, all this stuff about parents don't need to be told of what's going on in the schools, all that has to be reversed.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I could go through a litany of stuff, right? Because everything's in a crisis. I can't think of a single area within the state that I would say it's functioning well.
Would you say sunsets to bills would be a good thing?
Oh, yeah. We should get rid of the emergency clause.
Oh, my gosh. Thank you for bringing that
right?
up. Gosh, I cannot, like every bill that is introduced that has that, I immediately know, like this, it's going to be pushed through as fast as it possibly can, and no matter what it is.
Yeah, exactly. And to your point, sunsetting things, right?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, we should sunset everything.
Yes.
5 years, 7 years. If it's good, reapprove it.
Right.
If it's not good, fix it. Get rid of it.
Good businesses do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They go back, they look at trends, they look at what's going on, and they say, hey, that didn't work out.
Yep. We're not doing that again.
Moving on.
Yep.
And that's why I say, look, again, my governing principles are pretty simple, right? Always put people over politics.
Yeah.
Right? Do no harm. Whatever you're looking to do, make sure it's not hurting people and look into the future.
Yeah.
Right? And then do what's right.
Yep.
Right? And if it's not working, then get rid of it.
Yep. Fix it or get rid of it. Like, yep. Perfect.
Nice. Cool.
Anything we didn't touch on?
Not from a statewide, but I will tell you this. If the people of Colorado are looking for a governor that will never forget the struggles of the people and is wanting to do things for the betterment of all, not just some of us, but all of us, right? And is willing to do the hard work, is willing to go out there and learn and listen to the people and engage and take on the battles and get that bloody nose or that busted lip for the right reason, then you need to look at Greg Lopez. Look at my track record. Look at what I've done. You will see that I always stand in the gap. I will never waver on helping people when it comes to making sure that they can live the American dream. And there's a lot of things that can be done. It's going to take a while. So it's not going to happen overnight. But you can be rest assured, when I get sworn in, everybody in the state will know there's a new leader in town and things are going to shift.
Awesome.
A lot of people moving out of Denver then, huh?
Yeah. Well, thank you, Greg.
You
Really
bet. It's been
appreciate
my
your time.
pleasure. Yep.
Yeah.
This is great.
Yep.
Yeah.
Go to-
If you guys want to support the channel, slideagunshopgear.com.